Let's be honest, most dual key units in condos are pretty hard to sell. That is why I usually advise my clients to avoid them. But here's the issue. You are paying significantly more, but you're not actually getting more usable space or bedrooms. So let me show you what I mean by using a recent launch, Lentor Hills Residences. So I'll be using their largest 3-bedroom unit and their 3-bedroom dual key as an example. So the standard 3-bedroom is actually 1,130 square feet, while their dual key version is actually 1,302 square feet, and it has a difference of 172 square feet. However, the price gap between the two based on similar floor levels is more than 450,000. So if let's say your budget already allows you to buy the largest 3-bedroom for own stay, would you really top up 450,000 just for another studio? Or would you rather use that same budget to actually go for a 4-bedroom instead? So actually this same thing happens in Nava Grove. So the 4-bedroom dual key is only slightly larger by about 129 square feet compared to the regular 4-bedroom, which is priced about 300,000 to 450,000 higher. You are still getting the same number of usable bedrooms, which is 4 bedrooms, just at a significantly higher price. So if you are a buyer today who needs 4 proper bedrooms for own stay, would you fork out that much just for a dual key version? Most people wouldn't, but recently I've started to change my views because I realized that not all dual key layouts behave the same way. In particular, dual key units in ECs actually perform very differently. So to show you a contrast, let's compare a resale condo and a resale EC, both in Sengkang. So we'll take La Fiesta, a private resale condo. A typical 3-bedroom there transacts about 1.7 million and a 4-bedroom transacts about 1.82 million, while a dual key unit there goes for 2.33 million. So let's say I'm shopping for a 3 to 4-bedroom unit with a budget of 1.7 to 1.8 million. It is very unlikely that I'll pick the dual key layout because it gives me 3 bedrooms in the main unit and actually a studio at the side, which actually don't really help my family, so this is quite out of range for me lah. So with that budget, right, I would actually try to go for the 4-bedroom classic instead, since the top up between the 3-bedroom and the 4-bedroom is only about 120,000, which is still relatively manageable. However, what if I don't actually need 4 bedrooms and I only need a 3-bedroom unit for own stay and I'm actually hoping to rent out the studio for income? Will I consider the dual key? So at 2.33 million, right, that is a 600,000 top up from my original budget. Although the concept of dual key sounds appealing in theory, whereby you live in one side and then you rent out the other, the quantum jump here makes it hard to justify. However, this is where things change and why I've changed my mind about some dual key layouts. So let's look at the Topiary, which is an EC in Sengkang. So a dual key here has transacted about 1.95 million. So if say today I have a budget of 1.7 to 1.8 million, similar to what La Fiesta's 3-bedders are going for, I will probably need to stretch a little bit, maybe about 150 to 250,000 to afford the dual key unit. And for that, right, I still get 3 proper bedrooms plus a separate studio for me to rent out. And that's when a dual key layout would start to make sense. So basically the key difference here is that in a private condo, buyers that are looking for 4 bedrooms are unlikely to choose the dual key because they need 4 functional bedrooms. However, in ECs where prices are lower, a buyer who, let's say, originally aiming for a 3-bedroom, they can stretch just a little bit more to get a 4-bedroom dual key, giving them the same 3-bedroom plus a rental unit without blowing their budget. So this is the reason why dual key in ECs are doing very well. And in fact, if you run a search on Property Guru today, you will find that EC dual key listings are actually really quite rare. It's not necessarily because the layout is more popular, but because of the pricing, it makes sense for buyers. It gives the 3-bedroom buyers the option to live in one side and rent out the other without the massive top-up. So similarly today, if you have a budget of 1.8 million and if you are looking to buy a 3-bedroom unit for own stay in newly TOP projects like Affinity at Serangoon, Riverfront Residence and the Florence Residence, would you actually consider getting a 4-bedroom dual key at Ecopolitan instead? Because you actually still do get 3 proper bedrooms, and on top of that you can rent out the one studio over on the right for at least about 2,000 to 2,500 per month, and that is quite sufficient to cover most of your mortgage interest. And if you check the surrounding listings around Ecopolitan, you'll realize that there's not much 1-bedroom supply in this area, which would also mean there is lesser competition when it comes to finding a tenant. So now, does that mean that you should avoid all dual key units in condos? Actually, not necessarily. If you have missed my previous videos where I cover great opportunities in the current post-launch market, you can check it out over here. And if you like help figuring out which dual key units are actually worth considering today, feel free to reach out to me, because not every dual key would make sense, and if you do your homework, you might just find the unit right for you. Also join my Telegram channel for more updates, and I'll catch you in the next video.